That's where I think most companies miss is they'll roll out a framework and say, okay, go do it. One of the things I talk about with my managers all the time, if they can't do it with you in practice, I know they can't do it in the game.
That's a pretty good place to start if you're going to hire some sales reps in terms of things that you're not going to be teaching them, the things that you want them to have when they get in seat. It becomes a point in time when for the other customers and for your team, you have to put their needs above this one customer who might be giving you a lot of money in one occasion.
That's where I think most companies miss is they'll roll out a framework and say, okay, go do it. Like no one's done it before. So then they're practicing on the prospect. So that doesn't go well. So they don't think it works. Whereas that practice is so key. One of the things I talk about with my managers all the time, if they can't do it with you in practice, I know they can't do it in the game. Like I don't even need to go listen to a call. Because if they're not able to do it with you in practice, in a safe space, I know for a fact when the pressure is on and when they actually have a prospect on, they're not going to execute on it. Like it's that practice and repetition that is so key there. And so let's keep going down this, right? Because, you had mentioned the book, setting the table and going through this. And so it's like, what were some of the takeaways from that book, right? Like I have it pulled up right now, right? The 51% solution, like constant gentle pressure, like road to success. Like what are some of the things that stood out to you from that book around hospitality and then into business? What were some of those other key takeaways?
Yeah. All right. So I got 3 points that I wrote down ahead of time. So I'll make sure I go through them. So the first is around what Danny Meyer, who's the guy who wrote the book, founded Shake Shack, Union Square Hospitality Group, sort of what he looks for in anyone that he hires. So he calls this the excellence reflex. Okay. And it's sort of 5 like emotional skills, 5 core emotional skills. In his opinion, these are things that can't really be taught. And I would largely agree with that. So the first is optimistic warmth. Mm-hmm. The second is intelligence, but the way that he defines intelligence, I would more closely relate to like natural curiosity. Okay. The third one is empathy. The fourth one is self-awareness and integrity. And then the fifth one, which is sort of the title of the book, is the way that he defines work ethic, which is people who care enough to take great care and pride in setting the table beautifully each time. Mm. And I think that that's a pretty good place to start if you're going to hire some sales reps, in terms of like the things that you're not going to be teaching them, the things that you want them to have when they get in seat. I really love that definition of work ethic in particular. I think that like it's less about how much do you want to sweat and like, how much do you want the dollar? And it's more just like, do you take pride in your work? Do you take great care in your work? I think the original post that I had commented on for you was about like a whiskey or bourbon situation where someone recommended something, right? Yep. And that's a perfect example of like that guy just like, he gives a shit when he goes to work, right? He cares. He's trying. He's like really like leaning in and trying to make the experience better for everybody around him.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was. I was trying to remember like what triggered this, because right around that same time there was a TED Talk that was going around too. That was very specific around this idea of like the experience of the buyer, the experience of the guest there. And so, okay, yes. And it's funny, like going through those terms, like those characteristics, sounds a lot like my hiring scorecard, like almost to the letter, right? Around optimism, around curiosity, around self-awareness, and again, like similarly, like pride. Right? They take pride in what they do, because the pride is something that's internal. Work ethic, a lot of people will only work hard if it's something that they like. Right? Whereas if you take pride in it, like as a hard worker, that's just what you do. And it doesn't matter whether you're setting a table or not. So I really, really like that, because it's setting the foundation of the people on your team, right? And y'all know this. There's restaurants out there where there's different types of people that fit within that restaurant and that experience that they're trying to create. So, okay. So I love that one in terms of really kind of setting the stage with your people. Then where does it go?
All right. So this is where it gets a little more interesting. This is what he looks for in hiring managers. And as like a frontline manager, I think there's some qualities that I try to emulate in the way that I lead my team. So the first is infectious attitude. And I was chatting about this whole thing with one of my reps last week. And his point, which I think is really well put, is a manager's attitude is infectious, whether it's positive or not, right? Whether it's bringing the team up or whether it's that like misery loves company, everyone's kind of down, no one's hitting their number kind of thing. So I think recognizing as a leader that like, no matter how I act, it's going to impact the energy of the team. So I need to be intentional about the way that I approach all the interactions that I have with the people that I work with. The second one is managers should have a charitable assumption, right? They should assume good intent when they have interactions with people. I think that goes a long way. And again, also kind of models for the team how to interact with other departments or sort of internal stakeholders and also obviously clients. The third one is the one that I would maybe expect you to disagree with me on a little bit, or I think is like a little bit of a hot take, but it's the way that he defines a long-term view of success. So remember, again, this is in restaurant terms, but you can put it in business terms easily. A manager should have the following priorities: employees first, guests second, community third, suppliers fourth, investors fifth. And Danny Meyer's view is that even though typically a SaaS business, you might want, like, not say out loud that the investors are last on your list of priorities, that if you order your priorities in that way, that the investors will make money. And that's the way to sort of set your business up in terms of goodwill, in terms of network effect for long-term success.
I mean, I heard no hot take there. That's the only way to actually do it. Yeah, and you nailed it at the end, because if you put the investors first, funny enough, they'll get what they want short term. They won't get what they want long term. Whereas you put your people and customers first. And that's where it's an interesting flop. It can go either way, right? It's like employee first or customer first. If the customer is first, that'll attract a certain type of employee. You put your employees first, well, they better serve the customer. So that's the only place I could see it flip flop. But no, that's the key to it. Right? People seem to forget that a company is made out of people. And you take better care of your people, the company does better, similar to the prospect. So no hot take for me, man. I'm 100% aligned with that.
Fair enough. And I think the example at a restaurant of employees over customers is like drunk guy at the bar, right? It becomes a point in time when for the other customers and for your team, you have to put their needs above this one customer who might be giving you a lot of money in one occasion.
Yes. We just did. So I was just on site at my new company. We did a whole ton of work around like culture and values. And one of the things that I brought up to them there is like, any phrase can get called weaponized. So if like one of your values is, customers first, well, that could be weaponized. Where a customer like wants a discount. And it's like, well, no. It's like, well, that's not putting the customer first. Or a customer is. They're being degrading. They're being disrespectful. They're being whatever. They're being harassing. Customer is first. And so one of the things I walked all the execs through is like, when you're defining your values and your virtues, you also have to define what it is not.